Are you guys ready for some fire? Because I've already lit everything on fire.
No.
Idle thumbs. Games, video 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 games, video. Video games.
It's August 15th, 2013.
This is Idle Thumbs 119. I'm Chris Remo.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
And I'm Kirk Hamilton.
You are not supposed to introduce
you don't
yourself.
introduce yourself. What is this?
You looked
bullshit?
at me. You guys looked at me. You like both said your names, and then you paused.
We were looking at you to stare you down.
You were like, and it's
no,
time for you to introduce
that's not
yourself.
what was our eyes
I'm
were
sorry.
saying.
I'm sorry. I
But yeah, it's
apologize
fine.
for,
Is this actually
for being
119?
presumptuous.
Huh? Yeah, it's 119.
Oh man, I nailed
But
it.
yeah,
Kirk didn't.
we will say the official thing that we say, which is that Sean and Nick are not here this week, but we are joined
Okay.
by Kirk Hamilton of
All right.
Kotaku.
Okay. I'll
Welcome
sit
back to the
quietly.
show. No?
I'll just be here quiet until you tell me I can talk.
It's August 15th, 2013.
This is Idle Thumbs 100.
We don't need to do it again. It's fine. So, how's it going?
Oh, it's pretty good. So you've introduced me now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's going good. I've been playing a whole lot of video games and sitting on it, waiting to talk to you guys about them.
Really? That's you just hang out at home. You play video games, and
Yeah.
instead of posting them on Kotaku,
No, yeah, I
you just keep that in the back pocket for the chance
Oh,
that
I
we'll...
might be on Idle
Right.
Thumbs one of these days
No, I
again.
save it. I'm just like,
oh,
I
man.
can post about a video
Oh,
game.
boy.
Or just put like a cat video.
Right, why
gee.
post about a video game when you
Right.
can just post like a cat photo, Mario
Totally,
lamp?
totally.
Yeah.
Probably do better traffic, and then I can bring it here and we can
Maybe like a Mario cake.
right. Okay, oh, we don't post cakes anymore.
Oh, really? You still
We
post
really
Mario
don't,
lamps,
yeah.
though?
I think I've posted a lamp before. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Anyway, yeah, playing games, doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing okay.
Yeah,
Not the worst.
that's good.
Yeah. Chris chooses not to comment on how he's doing. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Oh, that's good.
We're all
right.
fine here.
Cool. It seems like everything is fine. I reviewed.
Welcome to Idle Thumbs.
I reviewed Splinter Cell today.
What
new
is
Splinter Cell
I
game.
don't even know which one that is.
Splinter Cell. It's called Blacklist
Okay.
You don't know about Splinter Cell Blacklist? The latest entry in the Splinter Cell
in the
franchise?
Splinter Cell franchise. It's weird that I'm like Kotaku's resident Splinter Cell expert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which sucks kind of because no one really cares about Splinter Cell, but I know a lot about Splinter Cell.
Wait,
Like,
do people not care about Splinter Cell?
Yeah, well, you can always kind of tell by like traffic, how things do. Some people care very
It seems
much.
like Splinter Cell
about
sort of
Splinter Cell.
faded away a little bit out of the cool
Right.
zeitgeist.
It's
of
definitely
cool-
like when we
the
write
cool
a post.
zone?
the cool zone.
You can always like if we write a thing about like any Valve game, or Grand Theft Auto 5, or like there are games that like everybody gives a huge shit about, and then there are games like
What about Assassin's Creed? Where does that fall?
everybody cares
Oh, really?
about.
Everyone cares
Yeah,
about
it's
it? Okay.
huge.
Okay.
Like
Give it
like
two more.
shockingly
Give it two
huge.
more.
Well, that's what I was asking. It's another Ubisoft.
It kind of just keeps going.
It's another
like
Ubisoft
it-
franchise with a
Right.
million entries.
Well,
in it,
and
so
it kind of depends. Like Revelations was like not people weren't as psyched about that, but then 3 was like super popular. Like,
Oh, really? Okay.
And it sold really well too. I think it was like
Oh, I didn't know that.
bizarrely well, considering that I thought the game wasn't very good. But yeah, Splinter Cell is like kind of all the Tom Clancy games are a little lost in the shuffle.
Right.
So I did a review and like Ubisoft.
Is this
games,
the one that they made the new studio to make?
Yeah, it's Toronto. I think it's their first game.
Okay, yeah.
Which I didn't love it. Like I kind of gave it a really mixed review, which it got really good reviews from everywhere else. So I'm sort of
Interesting.
yeah.
So you're that guy.
I'm that guy. I'm that guy in this one, which is a little weird, especially because I, play all like every stealth game. Love stealth games. I've always loved Splinter Cell, even when it's like kind of bad. I like the games. And this one is
What didn't hit for you here?
it's good. Well,
Wasn't
it's
so
good
much of
at
that.
like that was half a sentence. It still like does a lot of the things that Splinter Cell does well. It's well designed a lot of the time, but it's also like got the story for starters. Like, and part of my problem with my review is it's like not a complete review yet because I can't judge the multiplayer stuff until the game's really out.
Oh.
So, but we have like a flexible system, and I can do the whole thing where I don't have to give it a final verdict yet. But just on the single player, I'm like, yeah, like the single player is like okay, but not great. I wouldn't recommend it. just on that. And the multiplayer seems like it's actually really, really fun, like a lot of it, but it was just a kind of a disaster trying to play it beforehand, and I just kind of want to wait until it's out to really judge it. But the story of these games, I mean, what was the last Tom Clancy game you guys played?
Probably the third Splinter Cell game.
Oh, really? Okay, so a while ago.
Me too, I think.
Yeah, so like that, man, they like, I mean, I guess they've always kind of had shitty stories, or like stories that just don't make a lot of sense. They're just an excuse to go from place to place to place. But like, I think this was just the last one for me where I was like, I just can't get into this anymore. Like, it just is so. It was more like last year was the Ghost Recon game. That was probably the most incoherent story I've maybe ever played in a video game. Like, there was just I had no idea like who I was controlling or what was going on, where I was. It got really grim. But Splinter Cell, Blacklist is better than that. Like, there's kind of a clear through line, but it's just like terrorists show up and they have a plan to blow up cities, and you have to go stop them. And it just, after a while, like, I don't know, you torture people a lot. It's like kind of all this sort of right wing, weird, like, go America shit.
So it gets into like weird, like, God, that's weird. That's not my perception of Splinter Cell games at all, because I don't think that I really played them in the modern era, I guess.
They changed. It's funny. So I had this conversation. So the guy, Maxime Bellan, the guy who is like the creative director of the game, is a really smart guy. Like, he's really cool. And I got to talk to him. He's made a lot of good games, I think. Like, he was like creative director for Rainbow Six Vegas, which I thought was a really cool game. Anyway, I talked to him about this, and he talked about that, about how Splinter Cell has changed, and told me to look at the box art for the games and like follow how the box art has changed like over the years. So I did a whole thing and like investigated, and it has changed. Like, it's gotten kind of more action based and more kind of hardcore. And
right, because the original boxes were just
Sam
like Fisher lurking behind someone.
A guy like standing there in the shadows, like, and then he was behind someone, and then he was like behind someone with a knife, and then he's like it really is funny
So
how
sweet,
it,
Now he's like jumping with a gun.
There's one,
like,
the conviction is he's on a train with like sparks flying and a gun, and like, and then this one is him like looming over a dude he's about to like torture the fuck out of, like that.
Jesus.
Well, then they changed they changed the box art so that so it's a little less that, but it was really intense, the original box art for it. So and then in Conviction they added like interactive torture scenes that were really fucked up. Like,
yeah.
were,
Oh,
like,
you know what? I did play I guess the demo of that maybe on Steam. I think if it had a demo, but maybe I had the full game and I just played like an hour and it was so fucked up. Like you start the game and like really early on you're like throwing a guy around a fucking shower room, like smashing his head into tiles and stuff. Like, there's such a weird thing about this style of fiction, like in film and television and games, this like weird sort of hyper kind of nationalistic military espionage thing.
It's like the 24 thing. I feel like 24.
Yeah, 24 did it.
Like,
yeah.
And then everyone, like the way that like, and the
yeah.
way that like right-wing conservative politicians would start talking about torture, like when we were having the whole national debate about waterboarding and torture, and they would be talking in like, I don't know, Congress or wherever, like in serious conversations, bringing up Jack Bauer.
Well, like Jack Bauer does
and
it.
and the ticking time,
results.
like the ticking time bomb scenario. Like there's a bomb that's going to go off, so he tortures some guy. And like,
well, that's what's so fucked up about it is that, you know, it's one of the things that's frustrating about discussions about like video game violence, and like it's one of the things that makes the conversation really hard to have, I think, because obviously the default position of someone who plays games and enjoys games and appreciates games is going to be like games don't like turn you into violent people. And I think that's true, but I think it's disingenuous to claim that the art that we enjoy or like the creative entertainment we enjoy doesn't like teach us anything or like doesn't mean anything to us. If that's your claim, then like you actually have a fairly dim view of like the capabilities of creative work that people make. And like, I feel like if you live in a society whose creative work reflects a certain ideology, doesn't mean you're going to turn into yourself like a weird torturer murderer. Like, that's obviously not going to happen. But I think it's pretty clear that values reflected in art and entertainment spread more easily than ones that aren't. Like, that's, you know, when stuff is just in the culture, it gains credibility. Like that is, well, and like that's what you just described with like congressional testimony.
It's like a reflection of our stuff too. I mean, like,
sure, it's a two-way street.
Like
for sure.
And it has to be a two-way street. So we keep making these things.
Yeah, but what's weird about it is definitely a lot of people, like certainly in Hollywood, like a lot of people I know in the games industry who work on stuff like this are people who probably on a personal level don't actually associate themselves with some of these sort of implicit politics of the things they make, but that stuff has just become so entrenched that it's now just understood that that's how things work in fiction. It's like, yeah, torture just works. Like you beat the guy up and he tells you the accurate thing, and like that's it.
That was my whole problem with these games, right? And then there was this is a whole thing. Like I talked to the guy about this and got the weirdest response on it. So there was the whole thing with this game.
I've tortured 5 people and I got results.
Right. Well, that was a huge problem with Conviction. Was like it wasn't just that you were torturing people; it was that they always told you what you needed to know, and so there's this the game is making an implicit statement that torture works, and then like there's co-op in that game. I remember sitting there. There's co-op in that game, and the co-op's really fun, like on a game design level.
You're just
really
smashing the guy all over the room.
Yes, there's a part in co-op where you walk. I think a couple of parts where the interrogation sequence. This is just in Conviction. This isn't in Blacklist.
So you can't at least like good cop, bad cop it in the co-op?
No. You just bad cop.
You can't be the guy who brings the guy the food, and then the other guy comes in and smashes him in the face.
No, it doesn't. It's just you walk up to the guy, and then you're holding him, and you like walk him around the room, and then you press B like over stuff, and then you just slam him into it. So it's like if there's a copy, there's a copy machine, and you smash his face. Yeah, it's the same thing. Only it was both of us. So like one of us would do it, and he'd be like boosh like into the copy machine and like break his face on it, and then he'd be lying there on the ground, and then it'd be like, okay, it's my turn. Like the other guy goes and it's like smashing him into the wall, and it was really fucked. Like I was sitting there, being like, I cannot believe that this is in this game that they're having us do this.
God, why wasn't one player the photographer?
Yeah, right.
Who posts the proud Polaroids?
Right, so that it winds up turning into a scandal, and they don't wrestle with it at all. Like there's
of course, it's just a thing that happens because it's what you do.
And there was a big scandal, or not a big scandal, but there was a little bit of a scandal after they demonstrated Blacklist at E3. I think last year's E3. It was when, I don't know if you remember this thing Tom Bissell wrote called like 13 Ways to Look at a Shooter or to View a Shooter. It was about Spec Ops: The Line. It was really great.
Yeah.
And one of the things he wrote about, it was 13 mini essays like about violence in games. And one of them was about a person he knew who was working on this game. And in the E3 demo, there's a scene where Sam Fisher like stabs his knife into this guy's clavicle. And then there's like a prompt to like turn, and he starts twisting the knife in the guy's clavicle, and the dude's like screaming, and he's like, where's the trigger or whatever? He's like screaming at the guy for information, and the guy gets it. And Tom said he knew someone who walked out of the game, like quit working on the game because of this sequence. They're like, I just am sickened by this. I don't want to do this anymore. And then I asked Max about it when I interviewed him, and they took that stuff out. They took out interactive torture. So there's a couple torture sequences in the game.
This is Blacklist?
In Blacklist now, the one I just played. But there's no more interactive torture, which is a step in the right direction. But I was talking to him about this and saying why. I was trying to get an answer out of him about.
Does it still exist just in cutscene form?
Yeah, it's like you just watch it.
So it's the same fucking thing.
Well, and
it's not entirely the same thing, but like it's basically the same claim the game is making
that it works. And I kept asking. I was like, well, why does torture always work in this game? Like, why isn't there a reason that you can't make it not work?
Because you are the best torturer.
Because it's a video game, right?
Yeah.
You have to be the best. He didn't get it. It was a weird. It goes to the thing you're talking about, I think, where it's like there's this assumption that this has to be this way in the game.
Yeah.
Because he's like, well, if you did that though, then you'd have to have like branching storylines, and we'd have to design like multiple, and I was like, no. I was like, that's not what I'm saying.
Just what if like one of the times
you just get bad information, and then the next mission is like you go on the wrong mission, and like it's still a game, like you still play shit, and it's still exciting and like fun.
Well, and everyone can play the same missions in the same order.
Right.
It doesn't
They're just like, oh, we got bad information from that tortured guy,
and write that in your script.
Yeah, it's in your script.
It didn't break after all.
But then it was like there was one follow. I was like one follow up short of getting that across and like actually having that conversation, and we never got there, and it really made me be like, God, this is just everyone's just like, well, this is how it is. Like you just put in the torture scene and then you go to the next scene, and it was like it could just be so much more interesting so easily, and that frustrates the shit out of me, and that really frustrated me with this game a lot. Like so many ways it could be better than it's just this rote same damn thing like that I've played just so many times. So I felt a little jaded writing about it.
What kind of a disaster of an individual must Sam Fisher be?
I know.
Like, think about the fucking shit.
And what's funny is that he's the most boring character ever.
Well, that's what's so weird about games, right? Or like violent games anyway, is how mundane, like just the most horrific acts ever become. It's like, I mean, we've talked about this on Our Thumbs before, I guess, but I feel like it's usually a slightly different angle. Like, usually we talk about the outrageousness of it, but like, when you think about a character like Sam Fisher who exists over
You don't want to look into Sam
20
Fisher's eyes at
years,
this
right.
point.
yeah,
Right.
like 20 years worth of in-game time. Like I don't know how long.
Right,
He's
right.
old right now.
Right.
Like
he's just gone through some shit too.
Yeah.
Like, it's
So,
And, like-
does he have like the beard and the eye patch and stuff yet?
no, he's not. He isn't fully turned into.
he's
Snake
not yet
But
snaking it. Yeah.
He's getting there.
But like, just think about how casually that guy just consistently pulls off the most vile shit.
Right.
You know, like just without a moment's
And it's
hesitation.
very, like, and that was kind of what they like. A 24 started to. They did like to explore the psyche of Jack Bauer and like the consequences of. And it was kind of. I mean, the show was always pretty ridiculous, but they at least got into it a little bit. There's not enough consistency between Splinter Cell games to remotely go there. Like Metal Gear actually kind of does do that.
yeah,
like,
it looks like Kojima seems to be super obsessed with that idea.
Right. He's actually really
It
into the
seemed like
idea
they were
of,
going to do that for a second with 2 Splinter Cells ago, where
Yeah.
they had all the footage of like hobo.
Oh, that was going to be Conviction.
Hobo
Yeah, they
Sam Fisher,
redesigned
and it
all
was
that
like,
stuff.
yeah,
And
and
then
then
they
it,
threw that all out.
yeah,
and,
I know.
remade it,
I remember that though.
Yeah. But that game was more like The Fugitive. Like it was less. This one's kind of a return to form because I guess people didn't like it. I actually kind of liked Conviction. It just.
Resident Splinter Cell expert likes Conviction.
Yeah, I thought Conviction had some good stuff going on. It also had. Well, that was. I've heard you guys talking about this game actually. That was the game where the guys would remember
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you
that was
were,
the- that was the
and they'd
Splinter
call
Cell
you
game where-
Fisher.
Wait, that was Conviction?
That was
Yeah,
Conviction.
that was
They'd be like,
Remember the
Fisher.
Airfield.
I thought
Remember
that
the
was
airfield?
years
Yeah,
ago.
that
Like,
was
I
them.
thought that was
It was.
recent.
It was like 2010, I think. It was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while since there was a Splinter Cell.
Oh,
Yeah, that was
wow.
the most recent one. And it was that game, man, that was like when I was first blogging about video games. And I wrote a thing where I just transcribed every time they said Splinter. Or
Oh, I
they said
remember that.
Fisher
That was
in the
hilarious.
game.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it was, this is depressing, but it was like the funniest thing I've ever written
Oh, yeah,
about
it was
games. Because
so
I didn't
funny.
write
Yeah.
it. It was just, I just transcribed it. And it just keeps going and going and going and
it's
going and going. There's like
incredible.
150, like, we'll get you, Fisher, you're dead, Fisher. And like ridiculous, like, when Fisher comes around this corner, he's gonna turn into soup, and like you're like the rat on the airfield. Like it's just shit that just makes no sense, and other amazing, terrible barks. And
that shit
so
was
this game actually
hysterical.
improves.
God, that was
does
really funny.
improve on that.
That would be a fantastic children's book.
Just Fisher, die, Fisher, die.
Just all
That's
of-
one. Die,
just-
Fisher, die.
Every sort of like double thick cardboard page is just one line from Splinter Cell. And you just sort of keep going.
Right, with like the kind of colored pencil sort of illustration that like that wraps
What
around the
they're talking
text
about,
where like
yeah.
the guy is like peeking out from around the corner like gonna get you,
Gonna get you,
Fisher.
Fisher.
Right.
Fisher's hiding in the dark. The guy's got a flashlight and is like looking around.
Yeah.
I would read that to my niece. She'd probably like it. Anyway, that stuff about
Man,
the
you
game
can see
sucks.
like God, what you have to do on every page just like notice like get your
You
like
have to find
3-year-old to like
Fisher?
find the little winking Fisher with
like,
like
three-
the lights on the thing
Yeah.
like peeking out from like a sewer
right,
grate
right,
or something like
right. It's called Find Fisher.
If it comes with like a tiny, like single AA battery powered UV bulb.
Right. You open it and it goes.
Well, no, like the book itself is paper, but
Yeah.
it has like in
Right,
the
right,
little
right. Yeah,
spiral
no,
down.
right.
There's
One of
a
those.
small flashlight
Yeah, yeah,
that you
yeah.
as a kid have to shine around until you
Right.
find the three,
Oh
the three
man,
set
that's so
Fisher
funny.
lights.
The book would just be called "I'm Gonna Find You, Fisher."
Right. I'm going to find you, Fisher. And it's like really, really surprisingly long.
Especially because they're all that like thick stock.
Right.
Like it's just a disaster.
You're like 2-year-old.
Like
Like,
a
I'm
cube,
bored.
basically.
I found
Like,
the picture
halfway
on
through.
every page so far, and the guy on the next
just-
page
they
knows
still
where he
can't
was the
find
last
him.
page.
Yeah, right. Oh man, this is
It's like, why can't they find him yet? This is so unrealistic. You're like, kid, you should play Splinter
you have
Cell.
no idea.
Yeah.
Fucking Fisher.
So
Wait till you're 11.
the game is I don't know, man. It's funny. Stealth games I feel like are like the thing right now. You know,
They're a thing, yeah.
they're a big thing, or they're like a thing in like these games, like in sort of AAA console games, so like Batman and The Last of Us, and then like the Mark of the Ninja or Dishonored, like just had this new DLC which is really really good, and like all these
I haven't
games are
played that
kind
yet.
of it's
Yeah, I heard it
awesome.
was really cool.
It's
Yeah, yeah, I
awesome,
wanna play it.
and like that game I think is awesome.
Oh, I
But
agree.
it's kind of crazy that like like that stealth has become a really big thing, and like Splinter Cell was sort of, you know, it was like the Western Metal Gear. Like when it 1st came out, there
Yeah, yeah.
weren't that many stealth games. It was like Thief and
I
Metal Gear.
remember
And
when
those
Splinter
kind
Cell
of
first came out, Kojima just said, "God damn it, can I just rename him Solid Snake and make this the new Metal Gear game?" And instead, he made infinite more Metal
Right,
Gear
right.
games.
And it, you know, and I remember I didn't really play Metal Gear growing up, and then playing Splinter Cell and being like, "Whoa, like this is awesome!" Like stealth, because stealth is like a really cool thing, kind of on a fundamental level, right? Because you're kind of watching the game and poking
Oh, yeah.
at it and
No,
all
it's
this
great.
bullshit.
Well, stealth is weird because I feel like it's a thing that is really satisfying in the abstract, but it's just one of those game genres that has never quite been like figured out to the degree that you'd want it to be, given how cool it is. You know, like it always just feels a little janky. You know, like there's not any I don't know. Maybe that's just inherent to what it is.
Like Gunpoint is a stealth game, right? And like I felt like the stealth in that game
that
worked
game is
really,
super
really
tight.
well. Like, and it was incredibly.
But I mean,
tightly
that game
made
is like. I mean, in 2D, it's definitely easy to make that stuff really tight.
Like Mark of the Ninja is really similar.
Yeah, you just have like full. You don't have to worry about depth perception, like any of the things that are fuzzy about a real world 3D space. Yeah, it's
funny to watch. Like, so I think this a lot about The Last of Us, about the way the action in that game works. How it's a stealth game, especially like if you play on like a really hard difficulty, you have to play it as a stealth game.
Yeah,
but like all these games. So the problem. Let me figure out where I'm going with this thought. The problem with Splinter Cell is that it works really well as a stealth game a lot of the time. Like when you're just in a room with a bunch of dudes and then you're like taking the dudes out and like sneaking around and kind of being Batman. That's cool. But the minute you get spotted, the idea is the game's supposed to be really like, and they've really pitched it as like, you can play this totally all out assault. Like if you want to play it as an action game, you can. And like, it doesn't work.
Everything has that problem. Hitman has that problem. Most of the Metal Gears have that problem.
But then
like,
not every game. Like,
no,
like
I know, not every
game.
No, I know.
Like,
yeah,
so
Dishonored is the cool one.
And
well, like, also, The Last of Us doesn't have that problem. Right. Yeah.
So I'm kind of feel like I'm seeing this thing now where there's a lot of games that manage to just, it's like they're not stealth games.
Well, it's because they have to be games that sort of like encourage or allow stealth, but they aren't stealth games.
So what really is going on, like in The Last of Us, what's kind of happening there is just dudes can see you or they can't. And if they can't, they kind of just react like dudes kind of would. Like there's like, you can play, like it has some, like that has the echo hearing and shit. Like there's some stealth stuff built in, but it's kind of just a more realistic shooter where, like I think about like BioShock Infinite, which has absolutely no stealth aspects to it at all, right? And when one dude sees you in that, everybody knows where you are. And then it's so much more old school feeling. You flip a switch and everyone's just shooting you. And I feel like that's feels kind of old to me now. Where now just playing a game like Dishonored, where a lot of times in Dishonored shit goes wrong and it just turns into a really cool action game for me.
Oh, for sure.
And I really like that. Where playing Splinter Cell felt kind of stodgy. It was like, all right, like these, you know, it's really sticky and you kind of stick to the wall and like it's kind of awkward if you have to move quickly and react quickly and the guns kind of suck. Yeah. So that felt good for stealth, but then I don't know, it frustrated me with the game.
You know what I really liked? A lot of people didn't, but I really liked the beginning of Metal Gear Solid 4. I like the stuff early on where you're like in the middle of a weird like guerrilla conflict and you're sneaking around, but there's other points of focus for people in the world. Like you aren't literally the one magical thing that everyone cares about. And if you get seen, like people will still shoot at you if they're not on your side, but like you have the cover of this crazy conflict going on. And like I thought that was super interesting. Like I really, really liked that stuff a lot. And it bummed me out that it kind of went away pretty early in that game. Because that felt to me, obviously I've never been in an actual armed conflict of any kind, but like it struck me as something that felt like somewhat more authentic than how combat is usually portrayed in games, which just makes no sense at all, right? Like even in like a stealth, even in like The Last of Us or Dishonored or whatever, you're still fucking Superman. Like you know, you're still like just ridiculous. And I guess you are in Metal Gear 2, relatively speaking, but if that stuff in Metal Gear Solid 4 near the beginning felt to me like it was contextualized in a way that was like somewhat believable and kind of like just.
Well, there's something about having
it was exciting because shit was happening, so
like
it wasn't like it
going
was
on around you.
Yeah,
was really cool.
I don't know. I really liked that. I thought that was a really interesting design space. That it was surprising to me that it doesn't seem like anyone else really picked up on it after that.
It is weird that they don't. Or
maybe there are examples. If there are, and I'm missing them.
Well, anytime I feel like there's two sets of, like, you know, the AI is fighting itself while you're just there, and you can kind of like actually the Dishonored DLC has that going on in the level.
Oh, cool.
Where there's like two gangs that are fighting it out on either side of this river, and you're just kind of teleporting around and doing shit like in the background, and they both will kind of attack you if they see you, but sometimes they're just otherwise occupied, and it's really neat. Like it feels,
and it's like there are definitely games that have that general concept of like there are two sides fighting and you're in the middle, caught in the middle of it, or like whatever. But there was something about the fluidity in that game that I thought was cool. Like that felt like you were kind of part of it, and
that was the hardest part for me too. I remember that was, believe it or not, that was the first Metal Gear game I ever. Well, I played 2 a lot.
Oh, really?
I came back to 4 and hadn't played a Metal Gear in a long time.
Oh, you know.
And it's so kind of awkward, you know, for me to get back to that control
Sure.
scheme and understand it. And I remember having a hard time with that whole part.
Yeah.
Like just constantly getting spotted and like killed. And
I played the entire Metal Gear series
wow.
in like the 2 months leading up to the release of Metal Gear Solid 4 because I'm like, whoa, a game about an old guy. Like this is interesting. Like I was so fascinated by those trailers that I was because I
You tried a few times in the past, right?
Yeah, and I just couldn't do it. I had a PS1 that was like, you know, as listeners to the podcast know, like I grew up a PC gamer and I didn't really have consoles, but I did eventually get a PS1 at one point, and I had like 3 games for it. I had like Final Fantasy VII, like Metal Gear. It was just like the things that were the absolute biggest things.
Like
and I'm like,
was that in Gran Turismo or something? Like, what was
yeah,
your
I
third
think I
game?
did have Gran Turismo because I didn't know where to start. Right, like I had no like context. So I was like, these are the huge things that everyone says are amazing. And I remember, like, I started playing Metal Gear, and I was like, I am the worst. Like, I literally couldn't get past the first level. Like, the shitty level where you have to just get to an
that happens
elevator.
in those games, though.
And
like,
I
that
couldn't
happens
do it.
to me with 3 recently.
And I like years of, like, not being... It was so frustrating. I hated... I was, like, so annoyed. And like, right around that same time, I was playing Thief and stuff and, like, loving it and being super... Like, totally competent. I wasn't, like, amazing, but I was... perfectly competent. Like for some reason, just there was something about the Metal Gear model that didn't stick with me. And so it was like, and I would try every couple of years and I would still just fall on my face. And then I remember when trailers for 4 were coming out, I'm like, man, this looks fascinating. Everyone says these games were like crazy story stuff. So maybe I should like play the other ones and, you know, before I get it. And so I got my friend Scott to come over and give me a crash course in how to play Metal Gear because he was a huge Metal Gear fan. And so he like walked me through the first level and it was crazy. It was like unlocking a door in my brain and suddenly I just blasted through it. And it was like one weekend that I'm pretty sure I beat all 3 of those games, or maybe at least just the first one in a weekend and then the other ones over the course of like, you know, a couple weeks or whatever. And 3 I thought was amazing. I loved Metal Gear Solid 3.
I have to play 3. I know everybody says that. I'm always talking to Lee about it.
I thought it was so good.
And she gives me shit all the time because I haven't played it. It's like her favorite game ever. She's like, you got to play this game. It's so good. And I have it on like an embarrassing number of consoles. Like I have it on every platform.
Yeah, I just played the PS2 one.
I can't, like, I don't know, like I kind of got a little farther. Even like the Vita version like does cross saving with the console. So like Vita, if I go farther on that version, I can save it. And even then, like I get the guy, like the chick on the motorcycle, and then I'm just kind of like, I don't take the time to kind of like get comfortable with the controls.
That game to me hit a really amazing midpoint between like sort of the taking itself too seriously and not taking itself seriously at all, that at its poles are like the worst part about Metal Gear. Like, you know what I mean? Like the taking itself too seriously was what to me made Metal Gear Solid 4 like on balance a fucking stupid experience. Like I liked some things about it for sure, but like I really, by the time that thing was done, I was just fucking over it. I was really like, Jesus Christ. But like Metal Gear Solid 3, I thought was a really cool, like kind of towing the line between that's not the right phrase for that, but like
walking the line.
Yeah, walking the line between the kind of tongue-in-cheek and the kind of earnest in a way that really paid off. Like I really thought it was cool. And there was also, God, game was one of my favorite scenes out of any game ever with the fucking ladder. Yeah, you know, I've talked about this on this podcast before, so I won't talk about it again. But yeah,
I gotta play it one day. There's a lot of games I gotta.
You'll
play
like that ladder when it happens.
Yeah, when there will be a scene with a ladder, and I'll think Remo.
Oh, you will. It'll be obvious. Okay. It'll be very noticeable.
It's a remarkable moment. In a
okay, cool.
game.
Well, yeah, then don't tell me what it is. I'll play it. It'll happen.
Yeah.
I didn't play either of this Dishonored DLCs. The only thing that I remembered hearing was someone saying that Blink started working. Blink midair was in the second one.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It's awesome.
Is that also in the new one as well?
It's in both. So the new one is like there are 2 parts.
Sorry, that's the most baby like one. So I can blink mid jump.
But like, it's amazing. No,
that's all that I want.
Well, it's funny because like that's the number one thing that I like about the Dishonored DLC is that you can do that. And then I was showing Dishonored to a friend, the single player, and I was like, wait, what is this garbage? Like I can't jump
I have to be on the ground before I can target a guy?
The minute you press blink and hold down the trigger, like it freezes. And then you can like jump with the trigger held down and it'll freeze whenever you stop moving the thumbstick. So if you have like the agility thing, you can jump super high
Mark of the Ninja does
and
that,
then
right?
just like look around.
think
Yeah,
so.
it's like Mark of the Ninja does the same thing.
I loved that.
It's awesome. Like, and it changes everything about the game. It's crazy. It's like a little tweak
Oh yeah,
that makes
totally.
like combat. The minute you're fighting, like you have a bunch of guys coming at you, you can like jump into the air, press the trigger button, and then just like look and like survey everything and like and then just like jump behind a guy and like wreck guys. It's like I couldn't believe. I wish that there was a way to carry it over to the
Right.
main game, almost so I could replay the whole.
You know that it would
Probably
break
could.
the world.
They just figured it would be unbound. Like
Yeah, I'm
mechanically, I'm sure that'd be quite
Oh, yeah,
simple
yeah,
to do. But yeah,
It would just mess it up. But yeah, I mean it's
But you would have fun
very
just
very
like
cool. Yeah, because who cares?
cleaning
Like,
house
Yeah.
with
yeah.
And I've already beat
Getting
this Splinter
outside
Cell.
of
right, and also leaping into a place that
Crazy-
isn't a clip plane to be able to
Supposed
fall
to
out
be
of the
walking
sky.
volumes and
Yeah.
shit. Yeah,
But yeah, I mean it's the DLC is really neat and like ties in with
that's cool. I
a single
totally
player
forgot
game.
about it.
So
I don't know why I
you
didn't
play
check
as
it out.
the assassin guy
Mhm.
who kills the Empress at the beginning of the single player game, Dowd.
Oh no way!
Yeah, and then
didn't know
the
that.
whole DLC is him, and he's on this separate, like it's kind of noirish, almost like this mystery about this witch.
Is that both the DLCs or were you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like the first part is it ends on a cliffhanger, kind of,
Mhm.
and then now if you got like the Game of the Year edition of that game is going to be awesome. It'll be like almost two whole games, and they tie together, and even like you guys both played Dishonored, right?
Mhm.
So like, I think that however Corvo deals with Dowd in the first time through is what happens to Dowd in the DLC. Depending on like
Oh, that's
because
cool.
you face off against
Oh,
Corvo, like
interesting.
it runs parallel to the Dishonored
Oh, that's cool.
story.
I love stuff like that.
It's super
Yeah.
cool.
That's what I
Like
loved
it's
about
just
the,
amazingly
So
well
it,
done.
it
GTA
is
4
Dishonored
like
opposing
episodes.
force.
Yeah, basically,
yeah,
it's exactly
or like
that.
episodes
Like,
from Liberty
yeah.
City. Yeah.
Yeah, and because and
Episodes
Dowd
from
had
Dawn
kind of the
Wall or
same
whatever.
powers as Corvo anyway, and like the stranger guy or the outsider.
They're like two sides of the same
turns out-
coin.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
He's like
that way.
Corvo's grim shadow.
He talks though, which is cool too. So he'll like talk to himself and like he's like not a silent protagonist.
God, Corvo starts to talk. Is my
Oh, yeah.
that never
That's like a
existed.
lost idle thumbs segment.
I don't know if we ever actually talked about it, but I just had a note from a thing that we meant to talk about. So I had a note in my phone. Like I flipped through the 4 or 5 pages. Then one of them just said, Corvo starting to talk. And then I kept flipping by. And I know that it was him probably talking about that fucking mask that he gets and just like
Right,
all sorts of
right.
other stupid shit. But sorry, so Dowd talks.
Yeah, Dowd talks.
God, does he see Corvo and say, nice mask? That would
He
make
sees Corvo. I can't remember what he says. He just says some stuff, and Corvo doesn't say anything.
We
of
talked
course.
about that stupid mask too much because we're obsessed with how fucking dumb it is.
It is. Well, that was another thing is Dowd doesn't wear the mask, and so I was showing the original game to someone, and then I'd forgotten that he does that. Like before each mission, he like puts on this crazy Skeletor mask and like gets ready to go fight. And I was like,
fucked
oh, that's
up, like,
right.
the finest mask
it looks
in all
gonna
the
really,
world.
really
Bolts, erector
uncomfortable.
set bullshit. Like, oh
And
my
it just
God.
looks so uncomfortable and weird. And
You're
like it
in
doesn't
this-
even fit his face.
You're
and
just in the most beautiful world
Right.
in the entire world, and they're like, oh, our greatest artisan has made this when he competed on Junkyard Wars in 2003, like on
Right,
TLC.
Right, it's what's his name, Brad Dourif, who I'd also forgotten was in that game. The actor who
Who's
plays
that?
that guy. Oh, he's the he plays the guy who makes the mask. He was
But like, who is he? Why
oh
is
he was
notable?
he was Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings, or he was the Doctor in Deadwood. Did you ever watch Deadwood?
He was the villain in at
surgeon.
least one Myst game.
He's been
That's crazy.
He's been in a ton of shit. He's awesome actually. Like he's a really interesting actor.
Huh.
He's all over the place.
I don't really know how they got him. He was like a total get, and then it kind of
What
wasn't
is he a
great
total get? I
performance.
think that guy's in everything.
Well, that's a good point. But it was maybe
He was
it
a
a
villain
shitty
of Myst
performance.
4 or something, or
It was
3.
kind of just really flat, and he was like, "Hello, Corvo. I'm gonna." It just wasn't actually because he's a kind of wild actor.
Hi,
He can
Corvo.
be-
Nice
That was
mask.
seriously. I made you
Hello,
this mask.
Corvo.
I
Can you get me
this
some
mask
whale
for
oil?
you.
Like that was pretty much
Do you
the
like?
sum of that.
Do you like
guys.
the mask, Corv? What do you think about the mask? I don't know. It
Oh,
seems
Corvo
It's
doesn't
kinda
talk.
weird.
He can't. He can't.
Corvo, he's like, "I'll take your silence as approval."
Like, that's that
or
was,
he
the,
just-
that was
or he
what we
just
used to
gets-
fit your face so that I could then size the real mask to you. But I guess you just walked away where
I
I
measured your face while you were asleep,
Corvo, come
having a
back.
vision.
Right, like all the fucking
That's not
screws and
the
bolts on
mask,
that actually.
Corvo.
Just, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's-
maybe every time Corvo comes back and buys more shit from him and still doesn't compliment the mask, each time he takes it as like just a passive aggressive
He's,
building
like,
insults.
increasingly
Like,
pissed at Corvo.
oh, you're back. You need some new arrows for your. Still got that. Still wearing that mask. I see.
Looks comfortable.
Looks pretty good. Like probably getting a lot of benefit out of it, huh? Liking it? Yeah. Fuck you. What?
You just
I
hear
hate that guy.
you hear the really quietly 3D tag. Fuck you. It is idle bark as you
You
walk
look back and he's like, I didn't say anything.
Look back. He's just kind of
He's like
Polishing
looking
his
around,
whistling.
like,
like,
something, yeah.
tightening the wrench on his.
Or you just look around, then he turns around. Does the NPC sort of just lock eyes with you, creepy uncanny?
Yeah.
Can I help you with something? But that's also at the
Oh,
same
hi,
volume
Corvo.
level as the fuck you, so you know that he said it.
That game had a good voice cast in general. I'm remembering now. Wasn't Susan Sarandon in that game?
What?
She played the granny, I think. I'm pretty sure it was her.
What?
And
What a
and
weird-
Hit Girl
what a
too.
weird random part.
Chloe Mint. I can't remember. I always want to call her Mintz Plays, that other guy's last name. But the Hit Girl from Kick-Ass played the daughter too. It was like a ton of big name actors. I'm not really sure how they pulled it off.
Crazy.
They pulled it off by having the budget.
By having a lot of money, I guess. Yeah,
brings
true.
Right.
to a
True,
video
yeah.
game.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anybody like that in the DLC, but it's still really cool. So,
Yeah.
that gets a recommendation. I definitely recommend if if listeners are looking for one stealth game to get this week.
Get both Dishonored
Get,
DLCs.
or I guess, get both this. I mean,
Starring
Splinter Cell's
Daniel
cool,
Day-Lewis.
but yeah, I would say I like Dishonored a lot better. But I think I like Dishonored better than Splinter Cell anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, you like Dishonored
Just-
a lot, and you were
yeah.
pretty not
And, like, Splinter
enthusiastic
Cell-
about
well,
Splinter Cell.
Splinter-
Like, why is that
That's
even?
right.
Why is
Well,
that even
he's
like
the Splinter Cell
that?
expert.
Right. Even though I keep playing these fucking Tom Clancy games,
Yeah.
I guess they just keep kind of not getting better, or getting marginally better.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. What have you guys been playing? I got a million more games I could talk about.
Let's take a break. No, I don't know. Do you have stuff you want to talk about?
I've been playing Skulls of the Shogun.
Oh,
man.
yeah. All right. How is
Yeah,
it?
I like it a lot.
On PC, right? They just
Uh-huh.
came out.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I really want to play it. I've got it.
I was the
just haven't had a chance.
first. I was talking to like Jake Kasdal and like Brute Pfeiffer, if you know those guys
Yeah,
who
yeah.
worked on it. Like I was the first person to play that game apparently, like outside of their
Really?
studio.
Ever?
Like
Oh, that's
no, I mean I'm sure they had like friends and stuff they played
Like,
it with,
when
but
it was
like
in early
outside of their
development?
circle.
Ah.
Like yeah, when that game was like announced, I guess. That was weird, and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
play it on the fucking when it came out regularly because I didn't want to get it on any of the weird exclusive Microsoft shit.
Right.
But anyway, now it's out for real on regular Windows, not just Windows 8.
Which was just a
Oh man, this is apparently quality Microsoft window release time right now because Spelunky finally
Oh,
came
that's
out.
right. I
Spelunky
started playing that. I
HD is
started
on
playing that
PC.
as well.
Anyway, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, go
We
back
can talk
to-
about that after
go
this,
back to
yeah.
Skulls of the Shogun.
So anyway, I felt like a dick for not playing it until now because I like those guys a lot. But
They've been asking you how you like it for the last 2 years.
no, they knew they were.
Like, it's cool.
I was
I like the
super.
part.
I was super vocal to them directly about
Right.
like, so when is this going to be out on an actual
Right,
real
right.
thing? Like, what's the fucking deal?
Mhm.
And they're like, yeah, I know. But yeah, no, I'm really glad it's out on just regular Steam because it's a really cool game. It's really interesting because it looks like a game. I don't know, probably deliberately, I guess. Like the art style, it just looks like a very lightweight thing, but it has really unusual. Like it's a really consciously progressive turn-based strategy game, which I find interesting because that genre almost by definition is like the opposite of that. You know, like when you play a turn-based kind of tactical strategy game, it's almost sort of a retro exercise, not in a negative way. Like that's, it's like it's one of the things that's great about playing something like XCOM or whatever. It's like you get this really satisfying, like refreshingly old school kind of approach. It doesn't mean it's like simplistic, but there's, it's on a grid, which is an inherently artificial construct. It's not like playing a game where you run around with a guy in a world and it's like trying to be really high fidelity. Like playing something on a grid is inherently low fidelity in a literal sense, or like low resolution of movement. And like this game is not that, which is interesting. Like you have full free movement with each of your guys on the field. Like there's no hex grid, there's no square grid. There's no like, the movement is just a radius around your guy and you can just move anywhere in it. And guys there's collision and they exert
Sort of like
force on each
radiuses in which
other.
they can attack each other and stuff. So it's all just based on
It's all
So
based
it's
on
just
just
circular
proximity,
proximity.
I guess?
Yeah, it's all based on proximity. And when you move into a guy, like you'll push him. Like one of your guys, like when moving one guy
interesting.
around will like push another guy out of the way. So that's how they get around not having a grid where you can very cleanly just say, well, I'm going to leave a gap and this guy's going to go through it, or just say there's no collision and guys can just walk through each other.
Right.
Like they created a weird problem that they had to solve, and the way they've solved it is a few different things. Like guys can push through each other, but then also if you put your guys like in a line in proximity, they create like a spirit wall, which creates blockage for enemy troops. So like they have
So
mechanics.
guys can't push through a certain density of your guys.
Yeah, and
Like enemy
it
troops
gives them like a
can't.
defense
Yeah,
bonus and stuff. Like so they really did some like they took a sort of general paradigm for the way the turn-based strategy game is played that's pretty outside the norm, and then they actually thought of just solid mechanics to back it up, which is really just impressive because you actually don't see that kind of thing that often. Like most games that adhere to a specific, genre, like a defined genre, tend to like be additive to existing structures or like just sort of refine them. And like this felt like reinventing the wheel in a way that was interesting. Huh. So I like it. I haven't gotten super far into it or anything, but like
I should play it. I hear it's funny.
I've played a bunch of missions, and yeah, it's
this is the game that the aesthetic looks like just a bunch of villains from Powerpuff Girls or something like that.
It looks like like an Adult Swim thing or Cartoon Network thing. Yeah, not Adult Swim, but Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
I like it. It's it's fucking goofy as hell, right? Like it's the most ridiculous dialogue and stuff. It's preposterous, but like it's but it's obviously intended, like it looks the way that it is, like it's all the tonal parts make sense together. It's cool. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. What about you, man? You playing anything?
I haven't played a whole lot since last week. It's been a devious crap week. So I'm sad. Thanks for asking me.
Oh, well, I thought I'd try to include you. If you were playing any good games or something.
Have you played the Spelunky at all recently? You played a bunch of it before, so you already kind of know.
I played it when it came out on XBLA. Sean and I
co-opted. So you've been doing the daily challenge. Or
I am so fucking bad at this game. I can't remember being this bad at a game. I've played like 2 hours of it. I played the original PC version a bit when it came out, and I was really bad at it.
The Game Maker one.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, well, man, I suck at this. And then the Xbox One came out, and I'm like, okay, well. Maybe
the Xbox One came out right when you were heavy into Binding of Isaac, which made me think.
No, it's true. It's true.
This would potentially grab you.
Yeah, I know. So now it's out on Steam, and I'm really glad it is. And like, I can tell this is an awesome game. Like, I can tell it's really good, and it's quite clear why. Like, the way systems interact with each other and the way like stuff can kind of cascade is really attractive. Yeah, we probably should.
You'd enjoy it.
But like,
co-op is really fun.
I just fucking suck. It's like insane how much I suck. It is like Metal Gear 1 circa 1998 levels of me sucking at a game. Have you watched
good people play? Like,
no, not really. I should. So maybe I can pick up some
people stream
tips.
It now. Watch, man. Yeah. You know Jason Killingsworth from Edge magazine? He's an editor at Edge, and he's like a video game freak. Like he's like better at Super Hexagon than anyone I've ever seen in my life. Or his Drop 7 score is like better than Frank Lance's. And he is ridiculous at Spelunky, and he'll stream it now. And he'll just tweet sometimes. He'll be like, yeah, like I'm streaming Spelunky. And I'll go watch him play it, and it's just bonkers. Like watching how... Because it's such a weird... That game is such a weird combination of knowledge and like chops. Like
The dexterity required to be truly good at that game is huge.
Right. And it's its own really distinctive kind of chops. Like it's like really like... Because I suck at it too.
Like the movement is
the feel
weird.
is so
like
weird.
Really,
it takes...
like lethargic.
That's how I felt about Isaac though. Like that game is so weird.
Isaac, I feel like I'm able to personally become fluent at in a way.
Well, it could be. I think you can get fluent at it.
No, you totally can. Like different people are just better, like have more attuned to different things. But for whatever reason, like those qualities of Spelunky, like I'm having a really hard time like getting traction with them. It's like very frustrating because I know it's a thing I would enjoy if I got good at it, but holy crap, I'm just not getting anywhere.
You could have the door open, you could sit down with someone who's good.
That might be even if you sit down with someone who isn't good. I think co-oping Spelunky it makes the failure less damning, and it also just like if you can just fuck around and it's more just like.
And it's such a communal game in that way. Like I think Derek was talking about this, but I'm not sure. But I think it was him who was saying like it was like pro tip to developers. He was like always put secrets in your game, like always put things in your game that people will just have to discover for themselves. Because that's just always something you should do for players, like because everybody likes that. And I thought that was really cool and very true of Spelunky. Like how. Like when I listened to those guys, they had a chat going on Killingsworth's stream, and there were a bunch of, I think it might have been a different stream. So a bunch of like indie devs were in there who are all obsessed with Spelunky, playing it, talking about it. And it's like, they're just talking about like how, well, when you get these wings and these vampires that come out in this part of the level do this, but you have to react this different way. But if you get this thing, and it was just, they knew they had to learn it just like, so it has that, like if you just sit with someone and play it and kind of talk about it, like, you can just learn so much just of the sort of what to do and what does what.
This is the dumb baby reason for why co-op is helpful also, but just having a second person alive to bail you out when you die so that the game doesn't restart if one person eats it makes it a lot more forgiving. But anyway, sorry.
No, that's
what were you saying? Spelunky Daily Challenge? What were you...
Oh,
that's the thing that I keep seeing on Twitter, but I haven't paid
every day
attention.
I haven't played.
Is that just inside of the PC game?
Yeah. And I think, is it in all the other versions too?
I don't know.
I think they I know that I'm pretty sure they added it for this version, but I don't know if
maybe
Like they might have back.
Yeah, and it might be kind of hard
back
to do that on like 360, I think, because you have to like issuing new content to a game.
Yeah,
like
right.
Minecraft started doing that, but I'm not sure everyone else can.
Microsoft generally doesn't like you doing that unless you're making them millions of dollars, I think.
Right. So but I know in the PC version, it's like there's a new challenge every day that's like, and I think you get one shot at it maybe.
Yeah, I
Might
think
be
you just
making
get
this
one
up,
shot.
but yeah, and so it's like if you can do it, like
That's
you know,
great.
Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
so they just make anything every single day. I think forever. Or,
Right.
I don't know.
Well, they probably
You
stockpiled a
think,
ton
are
of
those
them.
hand authored, or is it actually just the game is just making this as the daily like
I'm not
seed
sure.
that
Like, I
generates
don't
a
know
level that
how.
everyone
Yeah, I
gets
don't know
to
how
play?
authored they are. Like, I can't imagine. I mean, there must be some level of like procedural generation going on. I can't imagine that there's someone just sitting there at a computer. Like, every day.
The rest of Derek
That's
Hughes'
his
life
whole
is
life is
just
just-
like, okay, this one's
Well,
gonna look like a butt.
these-
Okay, this one's gonna
there's-
say hi.
There's still some fuckers playing this game. I guess I gotta make some more levels for them. Yeah, no, I don't think that's how it works. But it sounds really cool. I obviously I haven't even don't have it on PC. I only have it on Xbox. But I'm kind of like you, Chris. Like that's a game that I know is really good, and I've played with people. It's actually just really fun because it's also just really chaotic and goofy.
Yeah, no, I should play some co-op.
It's a dumb thing to like about that game, but I also just the art in it is really good for what it is.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's really nice.
how
Yeah.
It looks like a 2D indie game, but it looks like what it is, which is just the most expensive version of a game that a guy digitally painted. But the way that like all the lighting works in that game and stuff, I looked at it a lot when I was playing it.
Yeah.
I looked at the video game that I was playing.
Right.
It's pretty.
Yeah, it's
Pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. There's auto-tune saxophone on it though.
Oh yeah.
This bums me out. Yeah, the saxophone at the very beginning that plays.
Oh.
I can't remember how the theme goes.
That's
now.
funny.
But he's like really sharp, and I'm always like, dude, he's so sharp. Like, back that thing off, man. Well, what's another game? What can we talk about?
I don't know. This is already more games than we ever.
I can give you more games. I'm playing them.
Yeah.
Well, you guys talked about Saints Row with Danielle last week. So.
No, you should talk about Saints Row as well because we should just. I want to hear what you have to think, and
Okay.
I also, if you're gonna go all in on it being sweet, we'll happily just get pummeled into the ground some more on Saints Row
People, well, okay. I mean, I like it. I think it's really
because
fun.
Danielle.
Yeah,
loves it.
yeah.
Like, I read
just
her review. She's
yeah.
into
She
it.
really liked it.
Yeah.
No, I like it.
Oh, I
too.
didn't. It came out. I didn't. I should read a
The-
review. I
yeah,
haven't.
Yeah,
I haven't.
embargo lifted
I didn't
today,
see that.
so
Okay,
all
cool,
that.
cool.
And I didn't review it for us, but I've been playing it on PC for the
Uh-huh.
last, I haven't played that much, but I reviewed 3 for us, I guess, 2 years ago now, and have played every single Saints Row game, weirdly, from the beginning, and I really like 4 a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. So the deal with 4 is that it was supposed to be a downloadable expansion for 3.
Oh,
So
I'm not
it
seeing
was
that in a
called
lot of
Enter the. It
reviews.
was called like Enter the Dominatrix. Was what it was
That
going to be
explains
called.
everything about
Right.
this because a lot of the
So-
things that people.
Right.
The criticisms that I keep seeing are, why are we just in like a
Right.
like weird virtual version of the Saints Row 3 world?
Right. And it's like, well, and that's why. So it was initially supposed to be an add-on. And so it's the same
So
map. It's the same map
the
as Saints Row
planes
3.
to Pixar's cars.
Kind of.
That's got to
Well, so what
well,
happened
that's also
was-
like
I think
the
it was
episodes from Liberty
basically-
City thing, right? It's like
A little, well, it's
'Cause that
different.
was the
It's kind of
same-
not really
oh,
quite
okay.
like anything I've seen.
Oh, so it's like before
It's
you
a
can
little
talk.
bit. It's a little bit like that.
wait,
yeah.
how like in
where
that
you're
other
like,
video game?
like Lost in the Damned, you're like playing from a different side of the map, and
Yeah,
like,
right.
but it's like that, like multiplied by a shitload. Because
Right,
so the setup of this game, which I know Danielle I think explained right, and now we can talk about spoilers because I was never really NDA'd on this anyway. But I think that there's whatever the embargo's up. But basically, it's that aliens blow up the whole planet, and you're plugged into a Matrix version of the city. And then you have to fight from the inside out and like save your friends and like fight the aliens. So the aliens are in there with you too. And so it's basically like I think
Aliens
you
have
can
taken
tell
over the Matrix or the world.
well,
put you to
and the
Matrix,
whole thing is
but
a
then
goof-
they also
but
got
what's
bored and
cool
put
is-
themselves in the Matrix.
It's funny because you would say like you would think that the Matrix has been played out like
would
so
think
much.
You would think that,
But
for
what's
good
funny
reason.
is like okay, so what's been played out about the Matrix, I think, in video games is like all the Matrix shit, like the accoutrements of the Matrix, like wearing black and like sunglasses and the digital shit and the bullet time and like the sweet John Woo stuff and like all of that has been kind of played out. But the actual setup of the Matrix hasn't really. There's never been an actual Matrix game that wasn't shit. Like there was only Enter the Matrix, right? So generally, like the
There's
actual
probably another
idea,
one.
well, like Assassin's Creed, I guess is kind of close, right? Like that setup
That's
is,
what I was gonna
is
say,
the
yeah,
same kind
yeah.
of thing. Anyway, this is
doesn't Metal Gear do that as well?
do they? Where the whole game is taking place inside?
Where
the
there's some
construct?
sort of ambiguity about whether or not you're inside of a fictional
Metal Gear
space or not.
2 had shit like that in
Oh,
it.
maybe. Oh, yeah, that's right. They're like,
So it's
well, maybe
fine.
they do
Just
that.
Metal Gear and Assassin's
Metal Gear
Creed.
Solid.
and
All right.
Exactly.
I mean, like, there's stuff, but this is like it's such a direct just joke version of the Matrix. I mean, it is the Matrix. Like, you wake up in the red cube. Like, it's the shit that happens is the exact Matrix. Like, to the point where
that doesn't. God, this game. I want to scream
wait.
when people try to sell me on this game. Like, no.
Listen to you guys talk about it. No.
It's like a totally joke version of the Matrix.
Here's the thing. Okay.
Now what do you
think?
Then
let me say why. Let me try to get to why you might like it. Because I know Danielle already set this up. And I listened to the cast, and you guys were like, yeah, but this sounds like bullshit. Because it does. And that part of it is, but the thing is, the game is just super fun as shit to play. It's like it's a lot like Crackdown. Fair. Like, just when you're playing it minute to minute, you're in this huge city that's just ridiculous looking, and you can listen to music, whatever, and the soundtrack's fucking hilarious. So it's like you're listening to like Paula Abdul or something, or like just a bunch of really funny or cool tracks, and then you just can like. You have superpowers. You can like fly, and you can run super fast. You don't ever drive a car. It's like if in GTA you didn't have to drive a car. You could just leap and like fly and like collect stuff, and the whole game is built around like cool Tron like challenges and like weird jumping puzzles and shit. And like, or there's like a game where you like just throw guys, like pick people up and throw them through rings, and like the actual game is really fun. And then it's all kind of packaged in this really goofy like exterior that actually is genuinely smart. Much more often than not. Like, the humor is like, it's the kind of like highbrow, lowbrow
Jake
humor
has the most dubious face I've fucking seen on Jake in a long time.
There's a lot of thoughts going through my brain. One, there's 3 thoughts, in fact, which are, this sounds really stupid still. No, I can tell all these smart people who keep talking on the show say it's good. 2, that probably means I would like it.
Yeah.
3, I will probably never play it.
Yeah. No, and you don't have to. I don't know. I mean,
but like, no, you're getting me to the point now where I'm like thinking about writing down, consider ordering game off of Amazon secretly during the middle of the podcast.
Right. It's cool. I mean, I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun. And it was a really nice, like, kind of counterpoint to Splinter Cell, which is so dour and serious. Like, there's a gun in this game. Okay. The jokes in the game that are gameplay jokes, here's something worth pointing out. You know how games that are funny, that like are trying to make video game jokes, and they're like, you know, like you're fighting a boss, and it's like a JRPG boss. There was a game that did this. I can't remember what it was called now. And they're like joking about how it's, and so you kill him, and then he comes back, and then you kill him, and he gets harder, and it's really actually fucking annoying because you're like, yeah, okay, I get it. This is an annoying. Yeah,
the joke that you're doing is
but the
just
joke
to
is
pave
on
over
me,
the fact that you didn't,
that you're
just
doing
designed it.
Like, and the joke's on you, the player, so you actually always feel like the butt of the joke. This game totally sidesteps that every time it makes a video game joke, and it just lets you in on it, and it always is fun, like when it does this stuff. Or there's like a gun that's like a dubstep gun that you shoot it by charging it up, and then it like rips out this, you hold down the trigger and it rips out this like crazy fucking like dubstep thing that goes and like plays and is incredibly loud and like starts blowing shit up. But then as you're shooting it, everyone around you, like, cause it's like GTA, like all the civilians like start dancing cause they like can't help it, and they dance until they like die.
So it's basically the
like,
2010s version of the special move in Michael Jackson's Moonwalker.
Yes, it's pretty much
Where you
that.
touch the monkey and then you do, and then everyone dances and explodes.
Yes, it's that. And like cars start bouncing, and it's like the kind of joke that could have been really dumb. Like the gun just goes like wub 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 wub, and instead it's this like really, it's actually really.
Well, it seems like
awesome.
that may have been where it started, and then they just layered on 30 additional layers.
Well, they're like, let's actually make this like.
Right.
That sounds pretty hilarious. That's like the first joke anyone's explained to me in this
like
thing. That actually sounds really funny. Yeah.
And there's so it's,
I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other jokes that are good too. I'm just saying, like, I only know the shit people have like told me. So
I feel like this is a game that if you hear enough of those things, Chris, they will stack up to the point that like, okay, I'm the president. All I do is jump and collect orbs. I have a dubstep gun. If people give you like 4 more of these, you might just break down and buy the game.
No, that all sounds fine. I'll look on Steam. I'll see how much it costs.
Keith David is your vice president. So, you know, Keith David, the voice actor.
He
does. Oh man, he does the ads for Civilization 5. He's like the voice of those.
Is he in the game? I don't know if I've seen the ads.
He's just the ads, and he does. Oh man, really? You guys gotta know who Keith David is. He's in like every video game. He was in Mass Effect. He's like the commanding CO guy. He was in Halo.
Oh, like your boss in Mass Effect?
Yeah, he's like the black guy, the like black commanding guy, and like every single thing. He has this great voice, and he was in They Live, the movie. He was like the other guy who like fought with Roddy
Skull
Piper.
Movie?
Yeah, the movie. Yeah, where you put on the glasses.
Yeah.
So he's in this game. Oh well, then this joke is gonna be lost on you. But like he's like the voice actor in the first 2 games, some character.
Sure.
But in this game, he's Vice President Keith David, and he's actually Keith David. And then you like find audio logs for him lying around the city where he like ruminates on his career as an actor and like what it was like to get into video games. I don't know. It's like there's like funny shit. Like it's really funny that like you can call Keith David, and then a like character model that looks like Keith David shows up and fights alongside you. Like it's not Keith David playing a character. It's funny. Yeah, it's probably funnier if you know who Keith David is.
It all sounds
Some
good.
listeners will think that that's
I'm
funny.
sorry that we were just silent, but I was trying to process what you were saying.
Right. You got to look up Keith David. He's in everything. He's awesome. Like he has the best voice like ever.
All right, yeah, I'll go see how much this game.
It's cool. It's a
costs
fun
on
game.
Steam, and
you can watch a couple videos of it maybe and get it, but it's fun. So
I'm more inclined to buy it.
Right.
By the week, apparently.
We'll get another guest on next week.
They'll be
Also
awesome.
say it's
That's what we have to do.
This is just,
Nick Brecken.
Read John Walker wrote a really good thing about it at Rock Paper Shotgun. That'll probably convince you.
Cool.
Like about
All right,
he
I'll
like
read that.
loved that game and was talking about how cool it is. And,
All right.
I think
kind of
that,
eloquently articulated.
I think you shouldn't
why it's
read that,
good.
and we should instead try to get more people on the
Get
podcast.
John to come on the show. Get him to fly out here from England and tell you why.
We've flown John Walker out to
We
tell
want to
you
know
to
why
play
Saints Row 4
4
is good. So that's good. You
So
know what
basically, it's kind of like a goofy Matrix.
he starts. He's like, so have you seen the Matrix? Did you ever wish there was a Matrix game? Because this is that. You know what else? You know what other game is really fun? That I know you guys never
The
talk about
Matrix.
Nintendo games, but Mario and Luigi.
We talk about
Dream
Nintendo
Team?
games. Have
I
you ever
never
heard
hear
of
you guys talk
Pikmin
about
2?
Nintendo games. Oh, okay, Pikmin. All right.
I
Actually, I haven't played Pikmin.
I think it's
3.
just we neither or none of us have this generation of Nintendo
okay.
stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
we used to talk about more Nintendo
my
stuff.
life was Nintendo life all the way through, like early days with the Wii. Like I think I was probably the last person. Like I think I got a DSi, and that was the last person on
okay.
thumbs who got Nintendo hardware. But we didn't get it on 3DS or the Wii U yet.
The 3DS has gotten completely amazing. Like
People keep saying that.
it's ridiculous. It's like my favorite thing
So
to
which
play games on.
it's a Mario and Luigi game?
The new one, yeah. And I'd never played one of those games before.
Okay.
I really liked the first one.
Yeah,
Man,
I played the shit.
I did not like the
first
second one, really.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny because I
What was
remember
the second
like,
one?
That was the time travel one, right?
I don't know. I haven't played any of them. This is my first
I think that was
Mario
the
and Luigi
second one.
game.
Maybe that was the third one. I don't know.
Okay.
Was this one the third one? I don't know. In any case, I really, really liked the first one, and
It's-
I kind of just I was kind of done with it after that.
It's so I didn't know what they were. I mean, I knew Jason was telling me, oh, it's like a JRPG, basically like a Mario JRPG ish. But playing it, it's just a really, really great video game.
Yeah, it was
like
really
it's
clever.
just fun as hell, and like everything in it is fun.
Oh,
and
you're
the
playing
combat
Dream
is, like,
Team? Sorry, is that
yeah,
what you said?
Dream
Okay,
Team is the
Partners
new
in
one.
Time was the second one.
Okay.
yeah,
how
that was
many have there been?
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
sure.
so like that's the thing that I actually has been just the case with me with Nintendo games generally over the last I don't know 5 years ish maybe is I'll play like a game like a new Nintendo game like Mario and Luigi or like this fucking whatever I don't even know like Mario Galaxy. The one not none of those are new franchises or like Metroid Prime like none of those are new ideas as of like characters or setting or anything, but they're all new gameplay ideas. Like they're a new idea for a thing.
Right.
And I'm like, man, this is awesome. And then I always end up playing like the next one, and I'm just like, oh, I guess I'm just doing more of that. And it burns it like for some reason the Nintendo sequels burn me out faster. Like the direct Nintendo sequels,
Yeah.
right? Not like the reinvented ones, but like
Right.
the direct sequels. Advance Wars, the same thing. Like those games just burn me out instantly. Like I'll play. The first one, or at least the first one that's new to me, right? Like the first time I've experienced this gameplay idea, and I'm like, this is great. And I don't know what it is, but like Nintendo in particular, I'm just done after the first iteration of everything.
I looked at this game a little bit, and it's the one that has, I mean, it has like 3D and 2D stuff in it. Is that
Yeah.
right?
It's really cool. There's like an overworld and an underworld. So you go around this big island that you're exploring that's in 3D. And then when you get into battle, then you can like get into fights there. And like Mario and Luigi fight alongside each other. And you like control them each with one button. But then it's like there's all
the
these little
classic thing, I
is that
think. Yeah.
standard? Okay, it's like there's all these ingenious ways of controlling them. You have to counter every attack, and it's really cool. And then you go it's Dream Team. So it's like you're on this island where like Luigi will go to sleep and Mario goes into his dream. And then those are 2D. And then
Like
Luigi
actually straight up side scrolling?
yeah, and it's like Inception. It's like you're like Luigi's dream version of himself is in there, and then he can like take control
Is he like
of
super
things in
buff
his
and
dream.
huge?
He's like he is like
Oh,
he's
that's
like
awesome.
he's taller and he's like dreamy Luigi, and so and then
that's
everybody
super
in the
good.
dream talks about
Well,
how cool he is, and like
There's
It's
actually
really funny.
It's I think across all of the sort of Mario RPG type stuff because it's in the Paper Mario games and it was in Mario RPG on the SNES a little bit, but it's super in the Mario and Luigi games. The
Yeah.
idea that Luigi is the second string shit
Right,
guy
right.
that no one
Yeah,
remembers.
yeah,
Where
right.
like I remember in the first game, like they'd be like, "Oh, you're Mario, cool! Oh man, like show us your classic Mario moves so we know you're Mario." Then you just press A and he goes, "Brr." "Oh, it's him! It's totally Mario!" And then
Yeah,
they're like,
yeah,
"Oh,
yeah.
green guy, who's
Right,
this
this
green
is
guy?"
very much the
Yeah,
same.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and they're
That's
trying to be
funny.
like, this is the year of Luigi. That's like Nintendo's whole thing
Right.
is that like Luigi's Mansion came out and like the Luigi U stuff for the side scrolling Mario games came
Hopefully
out.
the
and,
final
like,
game that comes out this year is when Luigi actually is revealed to be the villain of everything. Like, where Luigi,
secretly,
Luigi
like,
is
Luigi is
Waluigi.
Waluigi.
Yeah,
Culminating in the insane
Luigi
Waluigi,
versus
like
Waluigi.
fucking Cronenberg experience. Like, just
Yeah. Sorry.
the game is just great. I'm like,
Is the 2D stuff
Can't stop
still
playing
RPG
it.
type stuff?
yeah, it still works
Okay.
the same, but like well, it's a little different. Like you still get into JRPG-ish fights, and like like Luigi is like kind of inside you, so you use him to do special moves. Like you'll jump on dudes, and
Luigi
then
was
like a bunch
inside
of
you all along.
it's basically like that. A bunch of copies of Luigi you'll jump on guys, or you can do these crazy moves where like a huge stack of like 100 Luigis becomes a giant hammer that you like crush guys with. And,
Okay.
like it gets, it's like weirder in the dream
Yeah.
world. But yeah, that's the basic gist of the game so far anyway. But then there's all this, it's like every new area has got like all these new cool ideas and puzzles. There's like tons of puzzles in it. It's just really like, it's like the Mario game I always wanted to play that I didn't realize that even existed. Like, cause I never loved like side scrolling Mario games. Like this is way more like puzzles and exploration and RPG shit and like cool combat and like just sort of everything I'd really want. But I like am really, really, really into it. But it's interesting what you're saying about Nintendo games. I think you're probably right. I'm totally this like newcomer to Nintendo kind of. Like I got a DS, but I never, like I was like you, I had PC. I only played PC games growing up and didn't have any set-top consoles. I never owned a Nintendo console until...
Oh, I didn't either until GameCube for me.
I didn't own a GameCube. I had a roommate who had one, so I played some Wind Waker on it, but that was it. And then I didn't have a Wii. I borrowed one from my cousin for a while to play like Skyward Sword, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got a Wii U, and that's like my first Nintendo console. There's like no games on it.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah.
But then I had a DS and now a 3DS. So it's kind of like all these games are new to me.
Right. And they feel like remarkable
Yeah,
when you
you're
play
like,
them because
wow,
they're
like,
so
they're really-
different to every other game. But like, maybe it's because of that. Like maybe it's because
Like within their own subgenre is so far removed that the similarities within that
are so noticeable,
they're
you know, like
striking.
whereas a lot of game genres
Right.
are like the conventions, there are cliches for sure, and they can be irritating and repetitive, annoying, but like they also just feel like basic building blocks that aren't like necessarily kind of obnoxious when they're repeated, but
Well,
for
like
some
Zelda
reason,
games,
like,
because every Zelda game brings a lot of new ideas.
yeah,
to
but every
the
Zelda
template,
game
but the
also
template
gets
is, like,
more and more entrenched. You know, like
Oh,
in
yeah, that's
to the point where it's like now
Yeah, they
you
bring
open
a lot
your
of new, but they-
inventory
Right.
and like it has holes in it that are shaped the shape of the item. I don't know if they're still doing that, but they were doing this for a while. Like you have holes in your inventory that are shaped the shape of the items you're going to get, and like they don't even trying
Right.
to make this shit surprising
Bro, it's like,
anymore.
okay, yeah, the boomerang's going here. Shut up.
yeah, like
But, you know,
that just is insulting.
And there is like, there have been way too many 2D Mario games. Like I'm sick of those, and I never even really finished one. There's like 2 on every single system. Like these just
That wasn't the case for like
new
5 plus years though.
But then
Yeah.
suddenly
But now-
they just released a whole
And it
bunch.
sucks because it sucks for me because I don't really like the new Super Mario Brothers
Yeah.
games.
I don't
I
really either.
loved
They're all fine. Like they have a ton of interesting shit going on as 2D platformers. Like I think they're all fun. It's just I play them and I'm like,
They
all
don't-
right.
I don't feel that
I'm
way,
not-
really.
the
I'd
new
say.
Super Mario Brothers games. I don't think bring a lot other
Yeah,
than
I
existing.
don't- Yeah.
But I'm sure there are people who will tell me that I'm
There's
wrong.
also stuff that like, well, it's funny. Like, so first off, like Luigi's Mansion is like an amazing game, the new one, and that's only the second one. So it's like
Sure.
takes the first GameCube one and blows it up into this whole huge thing, and it's a really fucking cool game. That's like not really like anything else I've played in a long time because it's just like it's almost like house exploration. Like the puzzles are sort of weird; they're not exactly
By
puzzles,
Gone
and
Home
It's basically
on Steam.
It's a lot like Gone Home.
Steampowered.com.
Except there's a thing that
Except
Luigi's
this.
Mansion has that Gone Home does
that's
not
true.
have. Let's just keep talking now.
That's true. It does have that thing, and it has a vacuum cleaner, and you can't vacuum in Gone Home. You can't
Oh.
vacuum up stuff.
Oh, bullshit.
But they also like Nintendo does release a lot of like new stuff. There's like downloadable shit on 3DS. Like what Dylan's Rolling Western is this just like game that kind of came out of nowhere. That's just this new idea that's really cool. Or what's like Crash Mo and Push Mo. Have you played those games at all? They're awesome. They're these like really really good puzzle games that that they've made that are just sort of out. So there's actually kind of like people give Nintendo a lot of shit. I think sometimes not entirely fairly, only because they are having new ideas. Not that that's what
cool.
you were
No,
doing.
no.
There
that's
is a
cool.
bad rolling
But,
theme recently, which is that I should buy new Nintendo hardware.
Yeah, if you get a 3DS XL, you will play games that are good.
Do
on
I need
that.
the XL versus
Yes,
the regular one?
definitely.
Why? The
'Cause
pixels are
it's-
so much bigger. It's like a grandma.
It's just no, it doesn't though. Like I have both, and like the regular 3DS sucks. Like it's like tiny, and the build quality is kind of shitty. It like
Okay.
puts my hands to sleep when I use it. The screen feels tiny. The XL is awesome.
That's crazy because my favorite two, like the GBA SP and the Game Boy Advance Micro are my two favorite hardware
teeny
systems.
tiny.
Yeah,
well,
I love that.
I think everyone's mileage varies. I think,
But
but for me, I
also
think
the
there's no
things-
question. Like if you're getting
Like
a new one,
there's like 3D stuff on the 3DS, right? Like you need a
Yeah.
different
Yeah, I guess
screen
that's true.
size
You
to
want to be able to
appreciate
actually
that than
see
like
the weird
space
really
and depth
crisp
and stuff.
and it's
Yeah.
rare. It's
stuff.
and it's mostly on Nintendo games. Like actually, the 3D in Mario and Luigi is really really good, and like the Luigi's Mansion 3D is super cool. But it's mostly it's.
Oh,
you
when
can
I
take
said
it
when
or
I
leave
said
it,
3D,
like-
I didn't mean like stereoscopic. I just meant
okay.
like 3D,
It has polygons.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Like rendered real time
Yeah.
3D environments.
But it's not like the pixels are a big deal. Like when it looks a lot softer than like a Vita screen or something, but that doesn't matter. Like it's still really pretty. Like they're Nintendo games, they look good. So, but yeah, I would say, I mean, I tell people to get a 3DS XL. Like that's like I play it. I'm constantly playing it. Like I play it more than anything else. Like more than PC even. Like I just can get it out and. Now I've got all these games installed on it. I'm just like, no, I'll play this, I'll play that. It's a lot of good stuff. Sorry.
Fuck. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to read reader mail in a minute?
Yeah.
It seems like it's probably time for reading some mail.
Yeah, we could read a mail from a reader.
Okay, we're going to
Read a reader.
disappear
Okay.
and find mail.
Oh my god.
And we're going to read those mails. Chris is going
it's
to stop
warm.
melting.
Oh my god, I'm
Very
so
warm.
hot.
I hear you.
Video games.
Are we back?
Oh, we're back.
Hey! Oh, we were supposed to be all loud. You turned the mics up because we were supposed to be loud, and then we weren't loud.
I thought we were kind of loud.
Hey!
We got quieter over time. That's always what happens.
Boisterous.
Right.
Boister.
I was going to ask you guys about Crusader Kings II.
What about it?
Just shortly about it. Well, I haven't really
I'm
played
fine
it.
with that.
Briefly.
I'll talk about it all you want, Kirk.
Well, so this game is like Luke Plunkett at Kotaku is one of his favorite games. He loves it. Every time he talks about it and writes about it, I'm like, that game sounds amazing. But then, I try to play it, and it's a really, really difficult game to get into. For me, and I sense for a lot of people. Like, and I guess that's part of the appeal or whatever. But also, I don't know. He was talking.
That's
we were
not really
talking
part
about
of the
how-
appeal necessarily.
Well, for some people, maybe. Like, but just that it's like a kind of really obtuse.
I mean, it's like the least obtuse of Paradox's games.
Right.
I think by a lot of Paradox fans, it's seen as like the sort of gateway game or like the sort of entry level one. But
which
yeah,
is funny because it's like
No, I know. I'm not saying that
Like,
to say
right.
that it
No,
isn't
yeah,
like
yeah.
that it isn't really challenging. But I'm just saying like I think the perception of it, among
Relative to other Paradox.
And so the thing we've been talking about is I've been playing a lot of Civ 5 lately for the first time. Really, is getting into that game, and
Are you getting into it because of the new expansion pack?
I kind of like I had been meaning to play it forever, and then they asked us about the new expansion pack, and I actually played just vanilla Civ 5 and got ridiculously addicted to it immediately, as happens with that game, and like just loved it. And then the expansions made it so much better. Like I can just immediately see how much better the game got. So now I'm just playing it all the time. And we were talking about how Paradox could definitely learn a thing or two from Firaxis, like just about like they could make a game like, or I'm wondering if you think this is possible since you've played Crusader Kings more than I have. Could that game like learn a thing or two from a game like Civ 5?
it probably could. I mean, you can always learn a thing or two, right? Like, I mean, Civ has been getting better and better and better interface wise. It's always been pretty comprehensible relative to like grand strategy games, which are more in the style of like Paradox stuff. It's like grand strategy, but and Civ 5 I think is like the most accomplished example of UI in the Civ series to date for sure.
And just kind of it's one of the best UI. It's
it's like it's a standout in games
yeah.
generally. It's like really really outstanding, I think. But and I'm sure there are definitely things around the margins in Crusader Kings that are like just irritating every time. There's like weird little things like click here, not there, like do this, not that, like just weird little things that make a game that is not kind of intuitive by nature, like doesn't help. Like I don't it's tough. It's tough to say like what specifically they would learn, because I feel like a lot of the really broad things that Civ does really well, it can do because Civ is so like abstracted and kind of fanciful, whereas a lot of the reasons Crusader Kings 2 is complex, like there are just clunky things in it, surely, but a lot of the reasons it's so complex is because it's actually trying to model what were actually weirdly complex, convoluted like rules of feudalism that existed in the medieval era. So one of the funny, hilarious things to see when we're playing the game is that Nick like kind of just refuses to sort of internalize the rules of medieval feudalism. Like he will just be like, well, I just want to go to war and like take all those, we're at war. Why can't I just steal all these provinces? It's like, well, it's just not how it works. Like you need to actually like have a claim on them of some kind and like press that claim. And like, you need to be able to sort of make some kind of like at least theoretical legal argument that you through like ancestry or marriage or something, like actually have the right to own that land, like or to like control that province.
You have to
like,
at least have the barest pretense of a reason.
Yeah,
for
and there's just shit like that left and right. Like you don't have absolute power like you do in Civilization or something. Like you have these vassals who have their own opinions of you, who can declare revolt. Like there are things that are like trying to actually model to a fairly, you know, to a reasonable degree, like the way this world actually works. And if you've read like history or relatively serious historical fiction from that era, you know that this shit is like the most complicated. Like it is so bonkers. Not to the degree of like certain parts of modern politics, which are like labyrinthine to like a mind-boggling degree, but still, I think much more complex than the popular conception of medieval times, which is just like go in and conquer things if you can.
Or
you
like
know,
the Civilization 5 take on, which is
like when you read about like the weird machinations that existed between like the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, the Pope, and like the King of England, like, you know, during that era, you know, and also like, you know, the Emperor of France or whatever, like all these different things, like all of the power struggles are so baroque and like arcane and complex. And like the game has to communicate all this because it needs to represent every single character's like dynasty, like family tree, like power structure, all of the like sub-vassals under them, and then their sub-vassals of like the individual townships and stuff. And it's like, there is just so much inherent complexity to how this works that I think there's probably a limit to how much you can streamline it. But I also think that around the margins, there's a lot they could do to just make sure that like operates similarly to like, you know, like if two different types of interface element both use the same hierarchical structure, like they should always behave identically. And like it's pretty good about that, but there's the times when it isn't, or like the frustrating things. Like, so this is a really long-winded answer to your question, but like,
well, I think that makes sense to me. I think the things I hear about the game are that like I always hear these big moments that sound amazing and that sound really funny and just like usually kind of disastrous, and it sounds like a game that's like possible to lose at, and it's really fun to lose.
Well, like, it's also like you don't necessarily need to actually be thinking about all that shit every time you're making a decision, right? Like, I mean, you can make broad strokes decisions just because you feel like it, and that's one of the things that makes the game good. Is that even if you're not necessarily like an amazing medieval feudalistic tactical mind, like as evidenced by our baffling fucking success, like you can just do the dumbest shit, and like because it's a relatively robust situation, the world won't just collapse around you. And like when you read, like similarly, when you read the actual history, like rulers of the time often made dumb decisions because they're put in extreme positions of power based on no qualifications quite frequently, and like, you know, stupid shit would happen, and so like the world doesn't just explode. You know what I mean? Like it's like things. It's to some degree self-correcting, although that still can come along with like entire swaths of land like passing to a new ruler. You know, you can do things accidentally that are just ruinous to your family line, but you know, it's not like a lose state. Well, I mean, there are lose states, I guess, but like it's, you know, it's not like a video gamey thing where it's just like you didn't do this thing, now you lose. It's like, well, no, it's more just like this thing happened that is like undesirable to like the abstract concept of you, but you control different characters over the course of the game anyway. I don't know. It's weird. It's like, it's a simulation in a really like true sense, which is really cool because it actually makes it more robust from a kind of success and failure standpoint than a more traditional video game where everything is like very codified and it's like you either win or you don't. Like that's actually something that is like my least favorite thing about Civilization, which is a series that I adore, that I love deeply, but like I don't and a lot of people don't feel the way that I do about this, which is totally fine. But like, my least favorite thing about it is how cut and dried success and failure is. Where it's
in
like,
the end, like
in the end, where it's like I just like the part of just
Right.
being in the simulation with all these other countries and like interesting things happening.
and there's always the least
like,
interesting part.
yeah,
For me.
yeah,
Like I
exactly.
turn off diplomatic victories now, like, or turn off a lot of victories, just and like make it small and just kind of make everybody commingle for as long as possible. Yeah. I sort of wish. I mean, I'll probably play Crusader Kings at some point. I wish like the tutorial wasn't crazy. Like I wish that it was because I found myself I was doing these like YouTube tutorials to learn it
right.
that were way better than the tutorials.
Oh, yeah,
in the game.
yeah,
And I was like,
that's
couldn't you guys like
always
make
the
this
case.
game a little more like
Yeah,
you kind of can just start and you're immediately playing and there's
Yeah.
learning what's going on.
Yeah.
But it does sound like I get what you're saying. Like
Yeah.
it's sort of
Well,
there's so much shit going on that like you just
Mhm.
can't really make that incredibly easy to use from top down.
Yeah. I'm super curious about Europa Universalis IV, which is the newest Paradox game, and like I've heard it's like the reviews have been
I know.
off the
People are
fucking
going off.
charts. Like it's people loving this game. I'm pretty excited about it because it seems like even despite how like arcane and like Byzantine these games are, it seems like just over the years they've been getting more and more approachable, and like certainly visually that's been the case. That's the thing that has been nice to see in Civ as well. Whereas like the maps in like Crusader Kings II and even more so, it seems in Europa Universalis IV are these just gorgeous things where like because they have to be able to redraw political boundaries like just in real time depending on the situation of the world, like the lettering of countries is like dynamically curved to like fit the thing, and it's like it just looks beautiful. Like it just looks like beautiful cartography in a way that's like melding kind of traditional maps with the kind of dynamically populated style of something like Google Maps or something, but beautiful in a way that like Google Maps or like whatever is not, because it's just purely functional for like go down the street here.
Right.
Like it's a great thing. Like it's an awesome visual, beautiful thing that those games are never going to win any awards for like best graphics or anything, but like there's that type of beauty I think is great. Like it's a really cool thing that is just not represented generally in other games.
In a lot of other kinds of games, yeah.
And so it's, I don't know. It's nice. Like that kind of thing, I think, even though it's not directly related to like how easy the game is to play, I think actually indirectly helps accessibility because it just
can
gives
look
you
at it and just
something
go,
to
oh,
latch
that-
on
yeah,
to.
right.
Like,
And you know what
yeah,
you're
exactly.
looking at, and it's
Yeah.
nice. Like that's what I like about Civ 5.
Oh,
It's just that
totally,
it's
yeah.
like an aesthetically
Oh, it's beautiful,
awesome
yeah.
experience,
Uh-huh.
like
Yeah,
across the board.
You can stare at Civ 5 forever.
Yeah, just the music plays, and I'm sort of cruising around, clicking out. Yeah, no, it's very that way. So.
How do you feel about reading a mail?
Oh, I could read a mail from you, the readers.
How do you feel about it, Kirk?
I feel good. I'll listen to some Idle Thumbs mail.
Oh, you have
All
to
right.
answer it.
Oh, really?
It's for you.
Oh, they're not even.
This
ready.
is for you.
Okay.
They are. Next time Kirk Hamilton is on.
Please ask him.
JL writes,
Who?
Finger Fighters Fumble. Sorry for the length. There are 2 points blended so closely I can't split them. He has a digest version, but I'll just read the thing. Hi, Thumbs. I just listened to 118, including Khan's mail about design of one-on-one fighters in Smash Brothers. His points were interesting and well made, but there is a logical leap that seems, from the outside at least, to be an endemic blind spot in fighter design, which prevents the expansion of an interesting subgenre. He moves in one breath from acknowledging the advantages of a unified command set to describing the problems a unified move set brings to Smash Brothers. My feeling has long been that the simple unified command set is inherent to a Smash Brothers genre of one, whereas the shared move set is incidental and specific to Smash Brothers as an individual game. Good for accessibility, but an additional constraint on the design. Is it impossible to imagine a diverse one-on-one fighter that abandons the stick and wiggling dexterity test for a special and button or special and direction system? I'm baffled by the decades-long absence of anyone even trying. The Soul series is the closest example I know of in Little Fighters in the Ballpark. Anyway. Maybe I just don't see the problem that anyone else can spot, or maybe I'm just unaware of some underground genre of Dujin fighters. A thought experiment. What would a tournament in your choice of series look like if the competitors were allowed to... Oh, Jesus, he just goes on and on. So I think what he's saying at this point is like keeping the unified like input structure that Smash Brothers has, but not having all those inputs map to kind of equivalent versions of moves. Is that what he's basically saying?
Like, what's an example of
Not
that in Smash?
Well, like in Smash. So Jake, in Smash, do the different inputs you put in like correspond to relatively similar attacks?
Does
across
everybody have the
characters?
same
How does that
moves
work?
that are mapped the same way?
It's actually about the 50-50 split. There's sort of a in Smash Brothers. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but sort of the non-special attacks are generally about the same. Where it's sort of you have the punch, you have the jump punch, you have the drill down, but then the moves on the other button are completely unique per character. Where like Mario will shoot a fireball, whereas another character will swing a sword, whereas another character will do a dash attack. So like the actual inputs are the same, but the outputs are different in Smash Brothers. That's so I don't know if that's what he's talking about.
So what's
exactly.
the question then?
I don't know. I'm having a hard time trying to. I'm
Like
sure
that-
he's
that
making a valid
every-
point. I'm just having a tough time.
That every character would
parsing it?
control completely differently? Like, is that...
No. I think he's saying characters control the same, but have a different like move set. Like I guess like one of the things we were talking about with fighters a couple weeks ago in the email or the episode he's referring to is that you'd have to literally know like totally different sets of inputs to do different things on different characters. But I think he's saying, what if you didn't have to do that?
I don't think of that as being the case. Like I feel like to do like most fighting games I play, and I'm like not a fighting game expert, but they mostly like you have kind of the same basic moves, right? The low punch, the high kick, the jump kick. You kind of do all that the same way. And then when you start getting into your combos, that's where everything gets different.
Yeah. So my understanding of fighting games is not nuanced enough, I think, to give this guy the
answer he's looking
consideration is
Is it
deserves.
impossible to imagine a diverse one-on-one fighter that abandons the stick wheel dexterity for a special and button or special and direction system? This seems like a really sweet question, and I think it's just a little bit out of our fighting brains. Ben Andak is probably sitting here going,
Right.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sure there's a
guys.
bunch of readers who are.
Yeah.
So then he says, a thought experiment. What would a tournament in your choice of series look like if the competitors were allowed to use Arduinoed sticks that could buffer any command instantly and flawlessly? Guile would go away, but what about the hundreds of other characters?
Interesting. So this is like basically.
So I
if
guess
you
that's
didn't
kind
have
of
to,
which I
you
guess
could
is what
just
he's
do
getting. I guess
moves,
is just
like,
what
right.
he's getting at with that other thing.
That'd
Just
be
like,
interesting.
what if that wasn't
It would
the
like
barrier?
be
What
way
if it
more
wasn't
of
the barrier?
It would be
you
just
know?
the strategy of fighting games without the
Yeah.
dexterity.
Well, that's I guess the part that we were sort of latching onto with Smash Brothers. That I guess he's saying, what if you extended that out to like maybe a more traditional
Street Fighter or
fighters type of thing? Yeah,
Huh.
which sounds good to me. Like, I don't know. That's one of the things I don't like
I
about
wonder if it would
fighting
like
games.
expose a lot of balance issues, like with different characters.
That's a
If
good
you could
question,
do that,
yeah.
like if it was just so.
Well, that's
easy
what he
to do
says.
all
So
of
yeah,
them.
he says here, would play degenerate or rise? Is uncertain execution a necessary vector for punishment, or can the other mechanisms such as startup and overshoot frames cover that ground?
I
So
feel
he's-
like it is necessary. Well, I feel like the way that these guys design like Street Fighter is that they spend so much time balancing and tuning that game, but it's got to be part of the way they balance those moves is how much time it takes to enter the combo to do a given move, right? That sort of tracks for me anyway. It's like it's much easier to do, I don't know, some basic sort of fireball than to do a much more complicated move. Though I guess, I don't know, maybe when you're super good at those games, it doesn't even matter anymore. You're just so fast
I'm sure that's
you
the
just
case,
do
yeah.
it immediately. So
I'm sure that's
maybe
the case,
it's
yeah.
irrelevant anyways.
So he says, spookily, a partial answer has come to my attention and come out in the same week. Megabyte Punch is a two-dimensional multiplayer physics ring-out fighter with a single-player platformer campaign attached. A significant difference from Smash Brothers is that you build your fighter from torsos, heads, and limbs that grant stats and special moves, a design choice that leaves me conflicted, but whatever. Anyway, he's saying he can't speak about authority because he hasn't played the final version yet, but I don't know, that sounds interesting.
Wasn't that like Dropkick? Or is that like the opposite?
God, I haven't
of
played
that?
Dropkick yet because I'm terrible.
That's like the
I've heard
simplest
it's really
fighting game
hilarious
ever.
and good.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
But I guess it's maybe the opposite of that, but it's just it's like the simplest fighting game possible.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he thinks this is an interesting entry in a genre that currently has only 2 entries and is slated to grow to a whopping 3 this fall. Folks, check it out maybe, he says, Hypocy. Yeah, an interesting email that we're probably not fully equipped to deal
No.
to deal with, which bums me out. I started reading it, I thought we'd be able to talk about it better, and then I realized I don't know anything. Was that 1 or 2 emails?
that was one. That was one mega
One
mail.
long
You can do one more.
Brad Grenz says, hey, Thumbsketeers. I was wondering if any of you guys have ever given Dragon Dogma a chance. The reason I ask is I've been playing the expanded version subtitled Dark Arisen. Dark Arisen?
Yep.
A whole lot this year, and it recently occurred to me it's basically a cross between Far Cry 2 and Dungeons & Dragons. Like Far Cry 2, this game is set in a beautifully realized open world filled with beautiful vistas, forests, and vales that sway realistically in the wind, and incredible day-night cycles that can really ruin your day. Like Far Cry 2, the story's a bit threadbare, but it doesn't really matter considering all the dynamic mischief you can get yourself into. Towns and fortresses are set at great distances. There's no convenient fast travel options. To begin the game, quests will often send you far afield, You have to be careful to plan your journey, setting out just at dawn so you don't find yourself cut out after sundown, surrounded by suddenly more numerous and aggressive direwolves, goblins, and ogres. While exploring, it's easy to stumble upon an angry and nearly impervious rock golem, or a griffin just might swoop down from the sky, catching you unaware. Whether it's a chance encounter or a plotted boss battle, any fracas with the giant beasts roaming the land can be truly epic. The combat in the game was designed by some of the talent behind Devil May Cry. Whether you're playing as a fighter, archer, or mage, or one of the later upgraded or hybrid classes, it's always fast, strategic, and really intuitive. The high-level spells can get especially crazy with huge fireballs slashing you down from the sky, or a tornado enveloping you while you're still clinging to a chimera's back. It's a game filled with miraculous victories, hilarious failures, and the best combat any open-world RPG has ever had. I only wish more people played it. I find it to be one of the most underappreciated works of genius from this generation, not unlike Far Cry 2. Sincerely, Brad Grenz.
Man, well, I'll say that was a really effective ad for Dragon's
Yeah, no
Dogma.
kidding. Well, I read this.
Jeez,
I read
that
this
was,
with
like,
you
better
present
than the
because I
marketing
figured
copy.
you'd be the only person likely to have.
So,
But now you will play it, apparently.
well, yeah. So it's funny that game wasn't
this game really divisive?
It was divisive for
Yeah.
us even because we ran. I think it was Tina reviewed it and didn't like it and gave it a really negative review. And people kind of there's a huge group of people who love it and went kind of batshit about that. And I haven't really played it. But everything I know about it actually makes me really want to. And every time people talk about why it's good, that was actually a great,
Yeah.
I think, encapsulation of what people say about it. Like, Far Cry 2 thing, I think, is... I mean, I don't know how much it's actually like Far Cry 2.
That might just be the secret way to get us
right.
to talk
I think
about
that
it.
it's also just like,
yeah.
let me tell you why it's like... Well, because, and that's... It sounds a little like that, though. Like, the way that Far Cry 2 is not a very welcoming game. And that there were a lot of bad reviews where people just kind of dismissed it.
Sure.
And were like, this is shitty. Where if you actually really played it, you're like, no, that's not shitty at all. It's really good. I think, didn't you guys have a rule about not mentioning Far Cry 2?
No,
Does that
we-
not
No, we have
extend
the
to-
Sorry,
opposite of
that
that
rule
rule.
is you misheard the rule.
Oh,
which is
okay.
mention Far Cry 2 all of the time.
You know, I've been on here talking about how much I love Far Cry 2 as well.
Oh, we know.
But that,
That's why you're allowed to come back.
right, okay. I still like it. I want to play that game, but I haven't. But I know, I really do. It's like another game that's like actually like I'm probably going to get at some point and play because everything I hear about it sounds like that description.
I think we have one more reader mail, and this is robot news.
Oh shit, robot news.
It's participatory robot news.
Okay.
Peter Jones writes, "Hey Thumbs, first off, I've been listening since the Kickstarter, and I enjoy and appreciate your weekly take on video games." Thanks, Peter. He also says, "This isn't so much a question for you guys, but an invitation for questions. I'm a practicing surgeon who performs robotic surgery with the Da Vinci surgical robot as one of the facets of my practice. On the last podcast, Chris mentioned he would like to question someone who has experience with the system. Even though I'm early in my career, I have well over 100 cases using the system. It really is fascinating technology, and I hope to be able to answer any questions you guys may have.
Nice.
So, if you are listening to this podcast, and for some reason the idea of operating a weird surgical robot simulator is a thing that you're interested in, ask any goddamn questions to this guy who uses terrifying robots, and we'll send him a pack of things to answer.
Yeah.
Because
Send them to questions at
questions@allthumbs.net. Yeah.
Please put robot news.
Robot
in the
news is the subject. Also, if you have any robot news, just fucking send it in.
That's actually maybe put surgeon
So
news.
Da
or
Vinci
something
Surgical
if another
Simulator,
thing.
that was the thing that's like the Oculus Rift, but it's the crazy medical grade one with the dangling tongues on the wires and stuff. Is that correct?
Wait, say that again. Say the weird thing you just said again.
Wasn't that the thing that was sort of like the medical grade version of the virtual reality simulator training thing, except that it was the thing that had like the example that the reader gave us that one time was that it like the organs that it only simulated a few things in the program that he was using, so there were just like 3 tongues hanging that you had to like move things near, and they would sort of waggle around. Anyway, this guy uses that all the time. Wants us to ask him questions about it, so please write to us, and we will pass on some weird surgical robot questions to Peter. Da Vinci's surgical robot. Look that up, and we'll talk about that in the next couple weeks, probably. Robot news.
Sweet.
Yeah.
God, you got that in there.
I had to get that in there.
You gotta announce the robot.
Oh, and I
news.
didn't post the picture of the Boston Dynamics office because I wasn't sure that we could run it, but now I know we can run it, so I'll put it up.
All right, sweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, I think that's all for this week. Kirk, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You know I love to come by, so.
Oh, also, we don't usually do this on this podcast, but I'm going to. Steve's game comes out tomorrow, or today, if you're listening to this already. Gone Home. It's really good.
Yes.
It's a good game. Also, I don't actually think I've ever mentioned this on the podcast, but I actually did the original score for that game.
You never mentioned that.
You
before.
might have mentioned it.
I don't think I did. Maybe I did. A lot of people have not
15
known.
times now that you've said
A lot of people have been
See you at
messaging
the
me on
end,
Twitter
and they're
being like,
"Oh wow,
I listen to Idle Thumbs all the time, and I had no idea you were doing that.
Yeah.
So I think I may have actually never
No,
mentioned it.
I've
But,
only played the first half
that's
of
a
the
thing
thing.
that I did.
It's good. Have you played it all the
I
way
have
through?
played the entire game, and I'm an unbiased person here, and it's really, really good. Really good. It's not like anything I've ever played before. I'd super hope a ton of people buy it because it's like a really cool game, and the music is lovely.
Oh, thank you, Kirk.
I think that you did a great job with it, and it's interesting. I actually wanted to, I wanted to ask you all this stuff about it, but maybe another time, just about music and how you did it and stuff. But yeah, it's a great game, and I second that emotion. Everyone should pick it up. I can't believe it's coming
Classic.
out, man.
I think it's coming out way earlier than I thought it was going to come out.
Yeah,
But
he
It
just
did. It was
announced
like a month
and
early, yeah.
there-
GoneHomeGame.com. No, don't put that in either. Oh my god. It's a great game. It's got... Oh, I was going to ghost it. I got to go. Podcast's over. Fuck, erase all of this. Seriously. Oh my god. Don't... You guys ready for gold? Gold Blast Bloom, gold game? Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, classic.